Well,
There
welcome.
was,
Go ahead. I didn't change that topic. Welcome anyway. Um, welcome to Showcase Broadcast Studios. My name is Michael Wardy, and this is Real Talk with Michael Wardy. I'm a certified financial planner and regional director at Source Advisors, where we're working with our clients and their CPAs in a couple different areas of specialty tax consulting, including research and development tax credit, cost segregation, energy efficient incentives, as well as LIFO, inventory tax calculations. Today's topic is not about any of that information. As we've done in previous broadcasts, I like to invite guests in studio to talk about overall um, um, events, activities, information, advice, and guidance. And I would like to, and I'm very happy and honored to welcome once again Dr. Pat. Thank you again for joining.
Hi, I love being here.
I love this. Thank you. So last time, and you saw in the opening, it was about Dr. Pat's book. We're actually not going to talk about that today. That was on a previous broadcast, which you can refer back to on LinkedIn Live or my YouTube channel. Today, I want to talk about, and I asked Dr. Pat to come in to give some additional insight and guidance and things to think about. Retirement. I'm not near retirement. I would like to be, I don't know if I would ever transition into retirement full time, but I know a lot of people, my parents' age and that generation where the goal was all about retirement. And one part that people have always focused on, and Dr. Pat, you could speak to this, people always focused on your financial side of it. And I want to retire. I'm saving for retirement. I have enough to retire financially. But in your experience, Dr. Pat, and this is really what this conversation is all about, is giving guidance and talking about from a health and a mental health, physical health and a mental health approach and things to prepare for. Can you give some insight, guidance, and we'll expand from there? But I'm curious to see what your thoughts are.
Well, I talk to a lot of financial people, and we always talk about, having the ability to have your health because, you're going to suck your money up if if you have some chronic illness or disease that really explodes as you get older, and having that kind of funds to support that. But then you're supporting that, you're not supporting living your life. And so, people who I've done shows with, or if you have in addressing those issues is that, basically you got to have your health or you can't do anything. You can't work even now. I mean, it's just, in a lot of people, when they're planning for that, they also have things that start to creep up and crop up as illnesses and chronic things going on because they weren't paying attention. And they start like showing up as little signs and symptoms that I call Grim Reaper syndrome around the age of 40, and if not sooner, and then, you kind of like go, oh, I got that. That's that's in my family. That's a genetic thing, but you have to like realize is that everything that happens is, we keep on saying it's a genetic thing and we're accepting that as a norm. But it really isn't a norm because you don't have to be your genetics. You don't have to be your DNA. You can change how your DNA responds to the environment by changing your constitution. And so when and even the mental health part of it, I can remember many people. I had a woman one time example that was in my office, and she said to me, "I am going to kill my husband." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "He's retired."
Oh.
And I said, "Well, why are you going to kill him because he's retired? Like, isn't that like, so you can go out and have fun and do stuff?" She goes, "No, Dr. Pat, I just got home from grocery shopping, putting groceries in the house and walking in the living room. And he decided to refit everything, take, stuff down." And she said, "So he doesn't have anything to do. He doesn't have, you lose that purpose." So I think when things like that happen, so she, before her appointment, she put everything back and put a note that said, "Don't touch anything." we need to have a talk, but, so she got adjusted. She went home. She wasn't as stressed out as she was when she walked in, but I think a lot of people that happens to, that they have this all of a sudden they have this like time on their hands. They
Mhm.
planned for it financially, but they didn't plan for it mentally and what that really looked like. How do I want to do it? Do I want a bike ride? Do I want to walk an 18-hole golf course? What does it mean to me to be healthy? And to be able to enjoy the fruits of all that labor that you did for years,
Yeah.
and be able to capitalize on your health too, and then capitalize on being, with people who are so important at that time in your life, because you
Mhm.
don't want to be a burden, and you don't want to be a burden on yourself and you don't want to burden them. But when you have those things come up, they're costly. They're a lot more costly than as if they were taken care of earlier. And, when you're taking care of those signs and symptoms that, pop up.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people that they look forward to it and they say, okay, I'm retired. And day one, because I think about this a lot. I mean, you get up, I know people that they get up at 6 o'clock, get ready for work, and they've been doing this for 20, 30, 40, 50 years.
Mhm.
And then that day one of retirement, they just naturally wake up at 6 o'clock because that's what they're used to. And
Mhm.
all of a sudden, they're like, wait a minute, I don't go into an office. I don't do that. If you don't have that plan, like, is it fair to say that you lose, and you said this, you lose that sense of purpose? But do you see people, and when you're talking with clients and patients, do you see that decrease in like self-worth and motivation and excitement and depression? I would think, correct me if I'm wrong, I would think that depression would start to set in if you don't have that proper plan.
Well, they probably already had signs and symptoms of depression before then,
Oh,
but
really?
because I think that, depression just doesn't come on all of a sudden, it's just like,
Okay.
and they now know that, and they tie depression into the gut and the health of the gut. So the health, the mind, and the gut are that axis is really huge, so
Yeah.
but I think when you wake up, I mean, when people go like, oh, I'm going to retire, like people, have a tendency to think like, at first it's probably like, wow, this is great. I don't have to get up. It's 6 o'clock, but I don't have to get up. Hey, I'm going to go down and spend an extra hour at the coffee shop and hang out with the guys.
Hmm.
And then because that routine, what they're missing is they're missing the routine. So if they can figure out how to replace that routine with something else, then that's helpful. And then have a plan, like hey, it's just like your wife always wanted you to walk with her after dinner. It's just like, well, how about taking a walk for morning, and
Yeah.
doing a walk in the morning too. There's things that you can do to like substitute that purpose, and also like, and think it out, huh? I mean, um, some people when they go into retirement, they have this like, I'm moving to Florida, I'm moving to Texas, I'm moving to
Oh,
Mexico,
yeah.
I'm going to go to Italy, or I'm going to take this big trip. And the saddest thing I ever saw is when I was around 40 years old. I was sitting in St. Marco Square with my boyfriend, and we were having this Italian experience being in Venice. It was so like I don't know how anybody could hate anybody in Venice. It's just really the ambiance of the place is, it's like you just want to hug and kiss everybody.
I
And
love that.
but I was watching these people on their tours. They could barely move. And I always thought, like, God, I go, they waited their whole life. They saved up their money to come
Yeah.
and do this trip. And they did it as a tour trip, so they're, like, let's go in here. They don't always have the opportunity to go down a side street. And furthermore, by that time, they might be scared to go down a side street. Whereas when they're 27, they're going like, whatever.
Yeah.
Let's just keep on moving forward here. This is like, oh, there's like, look at, like, they don't get to see maybe some interesting things, but they still see the most important parts of the city. Because those
Mhm.
trips to Italy, for instance, are Florence, Venice, and Rome. And, those are the three big cities, right? And, and so, but they get to see something to behold that they've always dreamt of. So, living that dream, and then, they have, be able to tell those stories when they come back to their family and their friends, like, look what we did. But,
Yeah.
I just saw people like not walking really well, not, because, when you go to a foreign country, you don't have the conveniences that you have in the United States of like escalators, elevators, and that type of thing. You've got, you have to have somebody help you up like stone steps. There's, and, you don't want to wear high heels on those stone steps either, that type of thing. You have to be a little bit more careful. That's why I always say, like, wear walking shoes. Well, walking shoes are pretty flat.
Yeah.
on
Easy
the
to
bottom of them.
maneuver in. It's so
Right.
true.
Yeah.
And it's so true. And I gotta think. So here's one of the other reasons I wanted to talk with you about this is because of what's been going on in the lockdown with COVID.
Uh-huh.
And people had these grandiose plans of I was talking to a friend of mine he retired, and his plan was that he was going to go to, I think he was going to live in Italy for 3 months, and then he was going to come back for a month, and then he was going to go. I think he wanted to go to Australia. Everything got shut down. Your plans change. What advice would you give, or would you say you have your plan, but have a couple of extra plans as backups? Or like, I feel like you need to be prepared for whatever events are happening, not just financially, but also from your activities and staying relevant for yourself. I also want to ask about education and continuing to give yourself education. We'll talk about that in a second, but I really want to understand from a planning perspective what your thoughts are.
Well, a lot of people, I just saw a picture of the airport at Palma in Mallorca.
Mhm.
And I think that's the name of the airport. And that someone posted it on LinkedIn or in Facebook, one of the two. And it was jam-packed with people because they're now
Oh, yeah.
open and they're ready for summer. But for the people who are now claustrophobic and being in
Oh,
crowds, that's not going to be the place, to be, because they still have that fear that was either rightly or falsely implemented in their brain to say that, this is a possibility. I just think it's interesting that all of a sudden one day, you're free, and the day
yeah.
before that, you had these incredible restrictions. Um, so but it's interesting because I've heard people say they're not doing it, or I've heard people say they're out of here, they're out of the country. As soon as something up, I have a friend of mine who's married to an Italian guy, and she flew down to Santiago with their two kids. And I'm thinking, wow, what a great education for our kids to be able to
Yeah.
see all of Bolivia,
Oh.
and all of, they can't get back into Chile because Chile's locked down, or there was still
Mhm.
locked down at the time when I last had communication from her. But they got up and they left because they didn't want to be restricted. They wanted to be with their family, the whole family together, and they're on this adventure exploring all of Bolivia. I'm going, good for you,
Amazing.
good for your daughters who are on online learning.
Yeah.
They
Oh,
don't
yeah.
have to be back into a structure of school because they're doing it, online. So they're having this incredible, like you would never, dream of having that, as a kid. I think, with, it's just like outside the box thinking. So I think
Absolutely.
that people, who have plans, you got to have a second plan, and, I would have, I would be in Italy. I love Italy, and I'd be in Italy in a nanosecond, but, I have other obligations here that keep me here at the moment,
Mhm.
but my plan, if I was going to be in the United States, it's just like you can still get in the car and go places in the United States.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
there's something that has interest and piqued my interest is I like to go like road trips is the 70-degree temperature road trip that takes you across all of the United States. And,
What's it
so if
called again?
it's 70-degree temperature, 70-degree Fahrenheit temperature road trip across the United States. It like starts like someplace like in Galveston, Texas or something like that, and comes up, goes to the East Coast, and then you come back, you go through Chicago, and you keep on going. And then it goes, I think, down towards Colorado, then back up, and then you go through Big Sky Country all the way to Oregon and Washington State and down, and you end in San Diego. But it's around 15,000 miles,
It sounds
somewhere around,
amazing.
and so if you plan it, I thought that, it's like, God, I want to do that, and the original one took you up also into Alaska,
Mhm.
but with Canada being closed down, Canada right now for me it has no sex appeal to go there at all. And so I had to, if I did that trip would not include Alaska, which is
Yeah.
okay. I'm fine with that. I thought it'd be interesting to see that, especially since someone told me I better have the right kind of car to drive there.
Sure.
Like you couldn't drive in a regular sedan. You really need something that has all wheel, four wheel, that type of stuff, especially
Absolutely.
in the western part of it. But I thought, wow, I go, there's that possibility. People can still get out and they can still do things in the United States. And the United States is really beautiful,
It,
and I believe the people in the United States, the core, essence of people in the United States, that they're good people.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
I completely agree. And that's what's fun about living in a country like this, among everything else, is that there's such diverse groups, and you can go to different parts of the country, and it's like you're in a different world in some areas, and you're just meeting more people and learning. And that's the thing that I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, is important when you transition into retirement as you get older, is continuing your education. Most people are, I went to college, went to graduate school, I became a doctor, whatever it is that they did. And then a lot of people cut off their education and they just stop learning. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't think they ever really, I think they feel like, how I see that is that I see people who say, like, I'm done learning, formally, but they're not done learning. They're reading books, they're doing things, and they're having input of data, and hopefully not watching, TV, or really limiting how much they're really, having news hit you, as you can find news on the internet, and you can find news, news stations on the internet without having to watch, and just getting the really good fine bullet points, and then looking for something, good, to happen in the news, which is rare. But but likewise, but the education part of it, some people go back to school and they learn something, they create hobbies. I have a cousin who I gave a chair to that I didn't know was a veneer chair, but I've always liked it, and I gave it to him like 3 months ago. And God bless him. He is like, he goes, Pat, I can't do the intricacy, like this, like lattice work that you want to have done.
Yeah.
But it gives him something to do, and he's very good at doing stuff like that. He's very good at, last year he laid sod at 75 years old in his backyard.
Wow.
He had help to do it, but he participated in doing it because he wanted to do something, the physical, and and he likes to analyze stuff. He was a CPA. So he if you give him something, I'm doing research on this. Can you find out what you can find out on your end? He always seems to find stuff that I have never seen before. Hey, what do you think about this? So I think that when somebody goes to retire, that they naturally change some of their habits, right? And one of the habits is, like, do they read, do they, like, what do they gravitate to expand their brain? Because you always have some input, even if you're not doing something formalized, I believe.
Absolutely. And two people that I really admire and I look up to, and I think most people do, would be their parents. And I find my parents to be two of the most incredible people that I ever have come across. Now, and maybe because I'm biased because it's my parents, but they every day, they've been retired for a number of years, but they're constantly learning. They're constantly researching. They're active. They have, when I see what they've put in place for themselves, and what was the transition is now a lifestyle for them in retirement, they're active and they're constantly going. And we look at that and it's exciting. It's great to see. And there are other people that I've come across that whose parents are retired as well. And they tell us about how they're struggling, not from financial standpoint. I'm talking just from getting up in the morning and going out, and their health and their bones are aching and they don't feel well. They just, I feel like when I look at that, and when I've talked to my parents about the transition and the focus of them, it was to always be active and always be learning.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in that
first
mantra.
off, Michael, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Thank you.
So number one. Number two, it's just like, it goes back to, like, people in this country don't know how to eat, and a lot of times when they retire, they go on poverty mentality,
Mhm.
or they're like, and so they always feel, even if they have a lot of money, they still feel very restricted. And the best investments that people can make is in themselves, and the best investment they can do that they can control is the food that goes in their mouth. So
Absolutely.
if in making good choices, so if you're spending like $500 more a month on food, but you're not having that out of pocket expense of having heart disease that you're paying $19,000 for, it's just like, I don't know. I said, people go to Starbucks, it's like, what is, like how people have been programmed. People go to Starbucks and spend $7 on a like some kind of coffee, $6 or $7, but they can't buy $6 worth of organic eggs.
Yeah.
And they say, and I have a kind of a funny story about helping someone make a decision about, like, eating good food or eating bad food, and I equated it to dating. So I had two broccolis in my hand. One was organic and one was inorganic. And so I was standing there looking at them, and this woman looked at me. She said, "What are you looking at?" I said, "I'm looking at the broccoli." I said, "I'm trying to figure out," I go, "which broccoli? They're both broccoli, right?" I said, "But you don't know which is the good broccoli or the bad broccoli." And she said, "No." And I said, I equate the good broccoli with a good guy, a good man, a guy who's got my back, who likes to water walk and feed me and spend time with me, and I said, it makes me laugh, and I go, the bad broccoli is the guy who keeps you out till 2 o'clock in the morning when you got to get up at 7 o'clock to go to work.
Oh.
And I said, so which one would you choose? And so she said, and she grabbed the organic broccoli. So which one was organic? I said, the one in my left hand. She grabbed the one in my left hand. She goes, thanks, see you later. But it's like, it's simple. Like, I did a post on LinkedIn the other day on strawberries, with the same idea. It says these strawberries have, it's a strawberry. Here's the list of ingredients. And it had all these, pesticide sprays that they put on. Because if it's on the food, then you're eating it, and then it gets, if your body can't get rid of it, then it stores it in blood, in the brain, bone, and fat. So it goes deep, and it stays there and it festers, so it's just like, if you have a choice, I go, what did the organic, broccoli end up costing me for that particular item? Might have been like 75 cents more. But, it's just like, I'd rather spend 75 cents more and not have a bigger health problem later on. Right. And I'm in that retirement age. I haven't stopped working. In fact, when I decided that I thought I should retire, and I retired for a short period of time, I just went, I'm out of here. I really took a really hard look around, and I saw people who were sick, people who were depressed, people who had stuff going on that I thought, like, you've got a lot of people here to help. You just can't, hang your hat up and retire and go travel. Because no matter where I go, I always get into that conversation that I want to, like, help support somebody have a better life and better existence, whether it's mentally, physically, emotionally, or spiritually. But it's just like, so that's how I ended up back here, in this realm, because I just thought, like, there's people, they're not hearing that message. They're not making good choices. In order to make good choices, you got to know what the choices are, and you have to have some education behind that. So that you can, and then you can make an educated decision, of whether or not you want that.
It's so true.
And then also, when you look at, the food, like, food choices in the United States, there's like, you really got to, like, be much, more mindful, grow our own gardens, and use good dirt. And, and use really good elements in nature, so that, because if you eat well, you will think well and you will feel better.
It has to start somewhere. That's absolutely true. That's a great way to put it. Yeah. So as we're wrapping up, can you share a couple of walk-away points for people to remember, think about, consider?
Well, I want them to consider their mindset. And one of the biggest change and shifts for people to, like, embrace retirement, maybe call it something else. I mean, because retirement has, that has a connotation to that word. It doesn't have, energy wise, I think, maybe, you can call it, maybe just ignore it. Just say, I have a new job. It's called not working. Something like that. But I think the mindset around it, is, to really work past it and be okay with it, and do things like, create a ritual in the morning. Like you get up, you have water, you do whatever you got to do in the bathroom, you brush your teeth, and you go for a walk, you go for a bike ride, you move. My second patient ever always said, she was 92 years old when I first saw her. And she always said to me, Dr. Pat, if you don't move, you're going to die. And how she got her exercise, because she was limited to how far she could walk, and they wanted to keep an eye on her, is she used to take a Dixie cup and go water her garden. And she had 150 plants in her garden. So she would go outside, come back in with her Dixie cup. So she got a lot of exercise. And you have to think about like exercise being almost anything you do. Grocery shopping could be exercise. You're burning calories off. So it's just like, keep the idea of like, if you don't move, you're going to die. And if you, and keep your body, moving. Watch what foods that you eat. Like, for instance, if you eat something and the next day you feel very stiff in the morning, then something probably that you ate the night before is more an inflammatory type of food that's making you not feel so well. Because if you don't feel so well, then you don't do something like walk or have activity. Yeah. And then the next day it's the same thing, but you're not going back to the culprit, which is what you have control of, which goes in your mouth. Yeah. And the other thing, is always stay hydrated. Hydration can help people, keep their weight in a certain place. It's essential for sleep, because a lot of people who retire, like as you get older, you have sleep issues, and some of those sleep issues come from, not getting enough exercise. But definitively, a lot of people don't have enough hydration, and it's 50% of your body weight in ounces. So I weigh 150, my, is 75 ounces for me a day. That's minimum. But drink it throughout the day, not at night, because it's just like, that's going to get you up, and if you can't, and then that sleep part, just as an added bonus, when you go to sleep, if you got something on your mind, just say, okay, can I do something about that right now? And if the answer is yes, get up and do it. If it's not, then write just down some key words and give yourself permission to go to sleep. Put on some white noise or binaural beats, listen to music if that's what you like to do, and, get the lights off around you, like this big white light that I have that, shines in my face right now. That's off at 6 o'clock at night. I do not go into, unless I'm working on a big project, I stay away from electronics, in my bedroom. And I have my bedroom so it's dark. I like to have a dark bedroom for me to sleep. So those are just some suggestions for people to get that little extra added thing that, for them. And eat well. Make good choices. If you feel bloated after you eat, then something that you ate is not digesting very well. And keep a diary and write down what it is and write down what you feel like afterwards. And then you'll always feel like, when you look at that, oh, every time I eat that, I feel bloated. Get it out of your diet. Yeah. It's just, it's, like I said, you got control of what goes in your mouth, and think good thoughts, do good deeds, and that those kind of rewards and gratitude always follow you.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you again for joining today. For those that joined us and will be watching the rebroadcast and the recording, thank you. We appreciate it. If you have additional questions, please reach out to Dr. Pat. Or myself, and I'll refer you back to Dr. Pat. Where can people reach you, by the way?
They can reach me on, if they're on LinkedIn, they can find me on LinkedIn very easily. My website is healthteamnetwork.com. My business name is Ask Dr. Pat, and you'll be able. They kind of coincide on my website. And next week, I'm giving a free webinar called Motivational Biohacks on Wednesday. So if you would like to know that, I will give you the link so that can go with these show notes for today.
So motivational, what was it again?
Motivational Biohacks.
Motivational Biohacks next Wednesday at what time?
At 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay. And my tagline is "Be stronger than medicine."
Love it. Okay, so I want to make sure that everybody will be able to have access to this. So I will ask Dr. Pat to send me over the link, so that in addition to this video, I'll have a link on YouTube and LinkedIn for you to click on, and they have to register, right?
Right.
Okay, so I'll make sure that that's included with this, so that access will be available, and you could watch Dr. Pat speak about that as well.
Great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Great weekend, healthy weekend. And we will be having another conversation in June. We will be coming back together again. We will figure out the topic. We haven't decided it yet, but we will have that topic and we will share it with everybody.
Well, if your audience has a suggestion for a topic that they want to hear, we can talk about, what you want to hear. And that would be helpful for us because then it's more, individualized and personalized for you.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
I think we should do that. We're going to have somebody in our audience and a subscribership out there come up with a couple of ideas. We'll get some ideas together and we'll pick one and we'll keep doing it.
Awesome.
Very good.
Thank you. Have a great summer, everybody.
Be well.